So, episode 2 of season 3 is called Sick, and the episode titles seem to have a theme in this season.
Single word, 4 letters, starts with an S.
Mm-hmm.
So next one is suck.
Suck.
And shit.
Oh, no. Oh, the next one is walk with me.
Damn.
So I guess, okay, that's all right. These first two, though, yeah. So, okay. So it opens right where, like, the last one left off. Mm-hmm. They're in the cafeteria, and the prisoners have just emerged, and Herschel's bleeding, and there's walkers outside, and so then... Oh, go ahead.
On a side note, do you like it when the episode picks up right where the last one left off, or do you like it when it's, like, a different day, a different storyline?
That's a good question. I mean... Really, either way is okay. Like, this is... It kind of depends on whether it's, like, an interesting cliffhanger. Like, this is okay. I'm not, like, thrilled. I wasn't, like, thrilled, you know, because of the appearance of the prisoners. Like, if it was something more intriguing...
Okay.
Then, yes.
Like, the
then I think that would be
walking
cool.
up behind Carl and Rick?
When?
After they killed Shane.
Oh, that was pretty good, yeah. And even just, like, the first episode and then the second episode where it's, like, Rick's in the tank and just, like, things like that. Like, yeah, I do like that. I do like that,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, I was just curious.
No, that's a good question, yeah. And you prefer that if it's intriguing also? Yeah.
So they're still in the cafeteria, and Daryl has his, like, crossbow pointed at them, and he's, like, telling them to come out of the caged area, and to, like, be slow and keep their weapons down. And Tomas just, like, pulls out his gun right away. Like,
well, yeah, because, like, he's like, what's wrong with him? And then Daryl's like, he was bit, referring to Herschel.
Right.
And then, like, Tomas is like, bit, and, like, starts pulling his gun out of his waistband. And, like...
Which...
Oh, go ahead.
Also doesn't make a whole lot of sense because they don't know what's going on.
You're right. Like, maybe they know about the bites, but no, you're right. They are, like, basically clueless.
They said, like, they've been in there for
you're
10
right.
minutes,
Like, they might not have,
so,
like, neutralized any walkers. Yeah.
They talked about how, like...
You're right.
One of the
guards,
Right, they heard about, like, people dying and then being
like
reanimated.
Cannibals and,
And that, like, one of the guards, like, put him in there and, like,
tossed him the gun.
Yeah, and said, like, stay here, someone will come get you soon. And then they've been in there for 10 months.
That's
so,
a good point.
Thank you. So they don't know.
Yeah, you're right. They don't even necessarily have a reason
they're like,
to, like...
who the fuck would bite someone?
Yeah, wouldn't they be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, they don't... It's not like they necessarily know that it spreads infection or anything. Yeah, that's true.
Peculiar.
So, like, Tomas is, like, bit and, like, pulls out his gun, and Daryl's like, stop. But, you know, he just allows him to, like, pull out his gun and point it at everybody. And it's like, at this point, Daryl really should just shoot him.
Yes.
Like, once he, like, refuses to stop pulling his weapon out, just shoot him.
Yeah.
Like...
He's obviously...
You have no idea who these people are or what they're going to do. He could just start shooting
to, like,
right
sort
away.
Of, like, reason or authority. Like,
he's the only one with a gun.
Yeah.
Like, Daryl could see that at that point, that, like, he was the only one with a visible gun.
Yeah.
So it's like, just neutralize this guy. Like,
yeah.
And it's just better because you have no idea what he's going to do.
You don't.
And, of course, as we find out, like, he is crazy.
He is crazy.
Yeah.
So they get Herschel back to his cell block, and Rick takes the prisoners out into the yard area.
Yeah, they like follow him back to their like, cell block, and then they have like a conversation.
This is our prison, hombre. Like,
yeah,
they're like, this is ours.
Yeah, he's like, well, you guys can go out in the
yeah.
yard, like you know, and he's like, well, we were here first, and it's like,
and well, we killed all these walkers.
Like, you guys didn't do anything. You guys were completely helpless. Yeah,
and maybe it was before they go out in the yard, but they're like, what's
they
going on here?
They don't understand.
Can we use your phones? And Rick's like,
yeah.
Like, how long were you locked up? Like, you don't understand. There's no phones.
Yeah.
There's no computers. And one of them's like, what about my mom's? And so, like, I guess they're trying to stick some lesbianism in there.
Yeah,
like,
I guess so. Yeah.
Gotta be diverse. And they're like, oh, we've been in there for 10 months. Like, tell their story. And Rick's like, well, at least half the population is gone.
Probably more, but
like,
but it's like, well based on what we've seen, it's like at least 90%.
Yeah,
of it.
like definitely more than half the population. Rick.
No, if it was only like half the population, you'd be finding other survivors all the time. Like there'd still be like tons of people alive.
Yeah,
Like the world
that's
wouldn't
ridiculous.
be desolate and mostly abandoned except for
Yeah.
walkers at this point. Yeah.
No, that's
I-
absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So you also noticed that the prisoners that were locked in the cafeteria surprisingly are well shaven.
Like they have little beards, but like they should be full. Like they should have like
10
wild.
months of
yeah.
no shaving. It should be like a
there's
huge
no way
beard.
that they were. I mean, I guess they had water from somewhere. I'm not sure
Oh,
where
that's a
they
good
were
point.
like I guess it was just in the pipes
It
or
must have
something. I
been.
mean, and like they were using the sink to survive because
Yeah.
but I mean, yeah, it's like there's no way they could have been
Mm-hmm.
shaving or like maybe they could like use kitchen knives to like shorten their like trim their
Right,
beards, but
but-
like that's it.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a conceit because like they like somehow they
Yeah.
not to mention that Axel has like a
handlebar,
greased like a manicured like mustache and I was like, wow, how are you
What
maintaining
mirror
that
are you using?
exactly?
Like, are you doing it for each other?
Yeah.
Like, oh, let me help you.
Yeah, it's like, well, we don't have anything else to do, so we've become quite proficient at like hairstyling
Yeah.
and like beard
Beard
trimming.
trimming.
Yeah.
So they ended up deciding to like share the prison
Mm-hmm.
and to share the food. So the prisoners are taking Rick and Daryl and T-Dog back to the kitchen. Glenn is no longer with them at this point because he has been left on Herschel duty.
Yeah. Rick's like, well,
You gotta
I
be
mean,
there.
know what I mean, Glenn? You gotta like watch him,
Yeah.
get it? Because like if he comes back,
No one else
it's the
is gonna be
son-in-law's
able to-
duty to like to put him down. Yeah, like essentially, he's like, you gotta watch Herschel. Yeah.
And so they're going through like the corridors to get back to the to the cafeteria. And I think it's really funny because these guys have never killed walkers or anything, so they're giving them this like rundown of like, you gotta go for the brain, brain, like they say it over and over and over. And then they're in the corridor and they see some walkers coming, and so like Daryl's like counting them down. He's like 1, 2, and then the group of the prisoners just like charges at the walkers, and they're like, ah, like they're acting like prisoners during a riot.
Yeah.
And like one of them like holds the walker's arms behind him,
Well,
while
Axel
Axel's
like shanks
shanking
him in the
him
in the
over
gut,
and over, and
yeah.
he's like, "You want to bite me?
Yeah.
You want to taste me?" And it's like brain,
Yeah.
and like Rick and Daryl and T-Dog
they
are
like
just
keep emphasizing that. Yeah.
right, and they're just like standing there like, what do we do?
Yeah.
And so, there is one that scratches. Do you remember what that? Oh, yeah, I guess.
Tiny?
I guess he bite. Oh, is that?
Oh,
after
is
the
that not
food?
what you meant?
That
Oh,
it
it was
is tiny.
after like I mean, this was after they made their deal.
And they got
with the
the
food
food.
because
Yeah.
like it was like Rick's like, like we'll help you clear out a cell block.
That's right. Okay.
Of your own in exchange for half of what's in the cafeteria.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they like go in there and they've got quite a bit of food in there.
Yeah.
And like they've been like pooping and peeing in this like
the walk-in
closet.
freezer?
Oh, you're right. It was a
Yeah.
freezer. Yeah. Which like kind of makes me wonder like have they been like just have they been like holding their breath,
Right.
going in there and
Right.
like evacuating themselves as quickly as possible, and then like leaping back
Yeah,
out, or
because Rick's like, "What's in here?" And
Yeah.
they're like, "You don't want to open that." And he opens the door, and like he's overwhelmed by the smell.
yeah,
So that's a great point. They must
Thank
have
you.
just been like, "Okay, guys, I'm going in. Hold your breath." So like this, because the stink is going to come out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
so when they're in one of the corridors, some walkers attack, and their big friend Tiny.
yeah. Like one walker has like his hands
Yes.
handcuffed behind his back, and so then he's like pulling, and like one of his hands comes off, and so then he's just got his bone exposed, and he's like he kind of like slashes at Tiny's back, and then like bites him at some point.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't see a bite, but they
Right.
said like, "Oh, he was bitten."
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
Tomas goes up and like shoots the walker, and
Oh yeah, this is
inconsistent.
another
Like, their hearing should have been damaged.
in these corridors, in these concrete hallways, like with nowhere for the sound to go. I mean,
It should have
this
been
is not a
damaged.
good place to
No,
be. Yeah,
it's not.
It should be hurting. I really think that like somebody should have gotten tinnitus or something like
Yeah.
over the course of after like however many years.
I mean, this
like
has been 300 days at this point, so
yeah. I like
301.
kind of like how there are deaf characters later. Like,
Yeah.
well, like what if someone
Right.
got deaf like
Right.
over time and like had to deal with that? That could have been an interesting like survival story.
That would have been really interesting.
Thank you.
And then they're like, Tiny's like, I feel fine. I
Yeah.
feel fine. And they're like, you're
They're
going
like,
to
can
turn
we
into...
just quarantine him? Like what
Which
yeah.
I think, I mean...
I mean, that would have made sense.
Right.
Like, sure.
And-
I mean, you never
And
know.
they say
Like,
bitten, but we didn't see a bite.
Right.
We don't know if scratches do anything. I think quarantining him would have been a great
Yeah.
option. And Tomas just like goes up and just bludgeons
like
him.
brutally kills him
Yeah.
and smashes his head
Yeah.
apart. Yeah. And so then and gets like blood all over like
All of
himself.
them, yeah.
You know, and
a
it's
lot on him. Yeah.
yeah. And it's like, well, there you go, Rick. I mean, it was pretty obvious that this guy is not someone you
can
should have
trust.
around,
Yes.
like in the prison at least.
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, you should have just killed him at some point because, like,
Mm-hmm.
the other three guys seem like you could manage them. Like, but Tomas is definitely crazy and like
Mm-hmm. Right.
bloodthirsty, and you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
yeah. So yeah, definitely. Like at this point, Rick is like, oh, I guess I don't have a choice but to like do something about this.
Mm-hmm. Right.
you
And he
know?
does end up killing him later.
Right.
With his like, it's not
Machete?
Is
Yeah.
it a machete? Okay, he just like slices him in the head.
Yeah.
And during this time, Herschel's kind of like he hasn't regained consciousness. I don't
Yeah.
think.
No.
And Carol's like, Glenn, come with me. You got to help me with something. And she goes out and finds a walker on the fence line. Mm-hmm. And she's like, this is the one. And and Glenn's like, this all makes sense what you're saying. Like, it's all logical. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. And she's like, Lori's past due.
Yeah.
One, how did they know a due date? Like, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, they're...
Yeah, I mean,
do they
it's
have
like, have they been,
calendars?
yeah,
Are
they've been
they-
keeping accurate. I mean, maybe, but it's like, they've been pretty
Like,
desperate,
someone did
you know?
that in
Yeah.
one of the governor books.
You're
that-
right. Yeah.
Kept a calendar and was, like,
Yeah.
tracking the dates. So, like, that's possible, but we haven't
Sure.
seen any of that.
Yeah.
And she's like, she's past due, and Carl was a C-section because she has, like, Lori has such little hips.
He's so skinny and
Right.
like tiny boned.
Yeah. And, I mean, if she's past due... Maybe it's because Herschel could have done it.
Like
but
maybe, maybe
why,
he's done this on animals, or
Yeah.
like he just he's knowledgeable enough
Why did
to
Carol,
where
why didn't she practice a C-section before? Why
Yeah.
did she wait? Because Herschel
they've been
was
killing
teaching,
walkers constantly. Yeah,
and like Herschel was teaching her about how
to help with the pregnancy.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So like, why did a
like this is
C-section
kind
not
of
come up
important
before?
because
Yes.
like I mean because you can't even do a vaginal birth.
Mm-hmm.
Like if the previous one was C-section, then you kind of have to do a C-section.
Yeah.
Like so yeah, I mean really like that's the most important thing you should have been teaching her probably.
Right.
Is like, oh well, we're gonna have to give her a C-section
Mm-hmm.
essentially, like when she's due. And yeah. And so it's like, so maybe because Herschel would have just known what to do, like maybe that, but yeah, because like now Carol's like, well, I gotta like cut open a walker and get a good look at what's going on.
They're
in there.
just like so bad at planning.
They are. They're
like
very
medical
bad.
stuff. Like Herschel should have been like, what if something happens to me? She needs to know how to do this.
Yeah.
It's similar to Alexandria when their doctor
Yeah,
dies.
it's like you
They
guys
don't
need to
have a backup
protect your
plan.
freaking
They don't
doctors
have a
and like
backup plan.
try to like like each doctor in this world should have like multiple
Right,
apprentices.
I was gonna say at least
yeah,
one.
because it's like
But multiple
because then it's
is
like
better.
okay, yeah, but then what about like getting ahead, but like with when Denise dies
they don't-
in Alexandria,
right,
it's like, well,
right.
she was the apprentice, and it's like,
Right,
God,
and
like this
she
is why
doesn't
you
have an apprentice.
like
Like-
A, you got to protect these people better,
Right.
and B, you have to like train multiple. You have to like spread this knowledge out
Mm-hmm.
more because like just having one is pretty dangerous
It
because
is.
then well, what happens when this one dies?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're screwed unless you find another doctor somewhere. Okay, that's great. Yeah.
So back in the cell block, Herschel like starts like his breathing slows down and he stops breathing. And
Yeah.
Lori decides to give him CPR, which is just so fathomly stupid.
Yeah.
Like if you're worried about like if you think that he just died and he's gonna reanimate, and the reanimation
last
time
thing-
has
yeah.
it has not been consistent.
Right.
It's not
It
like,
can
oh, we
happen
have 6
instantly,
hours,
like with Shane,
right?
yeah.
It was
It's
like,
like, bam,
a matter of like
yeah.
30 seconds.
Uh-huh.
But she starts giving him CPR, and it's like, you shouldn't be putting your mouth
Yeah,
against
like that's
his.
probably
Like,
the
what if
worst
he
thing you could
reanimates and
do.
just bites
he's
your
just gonna,
freaking face
yeah,
off?
it's like, well, then you and your baby are dead. I mean,
I guess that's what she wants.
I guess, yeah.
Jesus.
But is it like she's so? Is it like she just wants to like do some good? I guess so. She's like
I
recklessly.
guess.
I mean, that doesn't make it okay. That doesn't like make it less stupid. It's just
Yeah.
like I guess that's why she's like being so like cavalier about it.
Yeah.
Is that she's just like, oh, if I save Herschel, then like it'll make up for all the stuff she's feels guilty about.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and it's like really she could just do the chest compressions and like not.
Yeah, they do say now you don't even
like,
have to do.
You know, if she, like that would be, I think that would be a sensible
they
precaution.
say like pushes
yeah.
enough air into the lungs.
Yeah.
So back to the prisoners, they take the 2 that are surviving to a different cell block, and all on like there's a bunch of walkers. I guess they're not walkers; they were killed before they became walkers.
Oh, like you mean when they take Axel and Tiny? Wait.
Not Tiny, because Tiny's dead.
Oh, you're right. The other guy. Yeah. Uh-huh.
When they take them to their own cell block.
Yeah.
There's like dead bodies. I guess we don't know if they were walkers.
I think they were.
Down, but
I mean,
humans.
no, I think. Well, let's see, because I think they were walkers that Rick's group killed.
Okay.
I mean,
That makes more sense,
yeah, and
because
so I
they
think that's
cleared
why
it
they were
for
all
them.
lined up because like they were at the door and then they stabbed them and then I guess
Right.
like opened the cells to like let them fall
that
out or
that
like,
makes a lot more sense. Okay. I forgot that they were going to clear the block for them. And they put them in the block and they're like, yeah, we're going to lock you in here.
Ugh,
like, you
yeah.
can take it or leave
Uh-huh.
it. And as they're leaving, T-Dog's like, word of advice. Oh, he doesn't have an accent like that.
word of
Word of advice.
yeah. Word of advice. Yeah, I don't know. I can't do his voice, but yeah.
You should burn these bodies.
Yeah, take his bodies outside and burn
burn
them. Yeah, and
Like,
it's like,
why?
okay, where, yeah,
Why?
uh-huh.
Why?
It's because they have a sexual obsession with burning bodies. There's
They
no other
do.
explanation. I mean, yeah, it's like, okay, so, like, that's not necessary
It's-
because there's like you can just dump them somewhere and it's not like there's plenty of space out there.
Yeah.
You can just dump them somewhere, at least for the time being.
Yeah.
And it's not going to really make a difference. And where, like, okay, there's no, like, wood. I guess maybe you could find some, like, paper in the, I mean, like, that's all you could really find in the prison.
As, like,
You're not going to find
mid-mind.
enough.
Yeah.
You know, to, like, build a pyre. But, like, okay, like, what do you,
How?
what
How?
are they supposed to use for fuel
Yeah.
to start this fire? They're not going to
How are
have
they
any
going to
gas,
burn them?
and they're not going to like have any. They're not going to be able to gather wood or anything. You know, like,
Plus, like,
there's not going to be a
couldn't-
lot of wood furniture. Like, there's really just no way to go about this that
Couldn't
makes
like
sense.
a big burning like potentially
It would like
attract more?
It should. I mean, sensibly, that should attract.
I mean, we do see that
walkers.
later.
Yeah.
So it's just like, why and
Yeah,
how?
they're just so they're obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
The characters, possibly the writers, are obsessed
With burning.
bodies, and they just like I don't like they just never seem to question whether that's useful.
Yeah.
like they never seem to think, hey, wait, is there a reason we're doing this other than like, oh, in the past people burnt bodies during plagues,
Right.
And it's like, oh, I mean that's it, even though it doesn't make sense in
they've
this
already,
particular.
They've already
you know?
said like everyone's infected.
Right. Oh, yeah,
like, this,
yeah.
The dead bodies don't
And it's
spread
like
it.
inhaling the smoke of zombies cannot
probably
be
not-
good for
yeah.
like a living human being.
Yeah, that's a good
like
point,
putting
too.
aside that. Thank you. Putting aside, like, yeah, I mean, yes, like, yeah, everyone's infected with this virus,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like, so then thinking about that, like inhaling the smoke from burning them, like that I mean, come on, like
Yeah.
that can't be good. That's got to have some other like health concerns going on with it also. Yeah.
So then, like, Herschel wakes up and he grabs Rick's hand.
Yeah.
And then Rick and Lori are outside on, like, a walkway.
yeah.
And she was like, well, we can't get divorced. Like, what? We can't.
Yeah,
we can't
because
call
like
the
they're kind of
lawyers
like
and-
awkwardly like being like complimentary and like kind of like I don't know, like trying to like
It's very
reconnect
awkward.
a little bit. Yeah, but they like won't look at each other and they're like
Yeah.
standing like 5 feet apart from
and
each
then
other.
Rick
Yeah.
just like puts his hand out and touches her shoulder, and it's just like the least form of like comfort or like sensual, whatever, you know, like possible.
Yeah.
And then it just shows Carol doing the C-section on
Right,
the
on the
walker.
walker, yeah.
Yeah, and then it shows like someone is watching.
Exactly, I was going to mention, yeah, it's like somebody, you know, mysterious
Bum,
is
bum,
watching the
bum.
prison, yeah. Let's see, was that the end of the episode, like with Rick and Lori?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.